Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the next amazing conversation. This series is about reconnecting to parts of ourselves that have been hijacked and lost, and life's events have disconnected us from our connection to our sexuality, but most importantly to intimacy and that incredible human connection that we get with people, letting ourselves be seen, letting ourselves be open to receive love and finding safety in that. And unfortunately, it feels like that's a really tough thing for a lot of people. And today I have another near friend from across the waters. Lorraine is an author. Show us your book, Lorraine. Pop that one up. What's the title, my love?
It's Being a Practical Guide to Living in the Moment.
Perfect. All right. So Lorraine is in the US, and she is in a beautiful little country place where the internet isn't quite as sharp and radiating as it is here for me in Sydney. So you might hear a bit of a delay in her responses. She's not a robot. She's just got a different level of internet supply. So we're going to do our level best, and it might be that she turns her video off at some point, but the conversation will continue even though we can't see her. So Lorraine very kindly agreed to come and talk to me. I have met her very recently, and the material that I've been releasing on sexuality after menopause has struck a chord with her. So we got a conversation going, and now her history is very different from mine. She is a different age than me, and that's why I wanted her to come on here and share her experience, because her experience will be common to a lot of you in terms of her history. And we both agree, Lorraine and I, that until we come out and we talk openly about the unpleasant, the difficult things that have happened to us, but most importantly, how we've thrived through it, how we have made our way onto the other side. And Lorraine always jokes, you're so effervescent, Mel. It's like when you do get through to the other side, for me, the breast cancer and the menopause, and you see what's possible, and how life's gifts are actually in the difficulties, those messages have to be shared. And so Lorraine is here to share her experiences. So my love, do you want to start a little bit about your focus right now? Because what you're doing right now with the Ascension stuff and the 5D stuff, I think people need to hear about that first of all. But we're going to weave in about your history, and Lorraine has very kindly offered to be completely candid with us and share her experiences. So start, my love, and I'll just get you to turn your video off if we find it's too glitchy. Can you just tell us about the amazing stuff that you're doing right now and what your role is right now, I guess as a consequence of what's happened to you, and then the conversation will very gradually lead to where you've come from and what wisdom you have to share with people listening to us. So right now, what is life like, and how do you see yourself contributing to the craziness that's going on right now?
Well, certainly who I am today and what I do and the services I provide certainly come out of my history, but I'm passionate about helping people understand that even though we're straddling and moving into 5D, which is where I want to be and want to live, and I want to help guide people to get there, in these physical bodies, we're transitioning through these times that are unprecedented, in that we have chosen as a collective, every person on the planet today has chosen to be here at this time. And we've chosen to ascend through this process in physical bodies that are in the process of going from a carbon base to a crystalline base. Mm-hmm. And that is, although a natural process, very stressful on the physical body. It is literally, our cells are altering. And I like to say to people, because we have trillions of cells in our body, trillions, that make up every part of who we are. And each one of those cells has a consciousness. We are a collective, just as the collective of humanity on the planet. Our bodies, you know, as above, so below, we are a collective of cells with consciousness that are co-creating a physical body, moving through transition or transcending into a crystalline community. We're moving from matter to light, from matter to frequency. And what I do with people is I help them address the physical, emotional causes of what is hindering them from moving forward. Our bodies are miraculous, truly miraculous. Our bodies can completely heal themselves. You can literally, if you get out of your own way, you could go to sleep one night, have a disease, a debilitating disease, and if you truly surrender into your spiritual knowingness and communicate with all of your cells, your divine nature, and overlay your divine human blueprint, you could wake up the next day completely healed. Now, I haven't been able to do that, but I know it's possible.
Yeah. You absolutely hear stories of that, don't you? And my experience of the miraculousness of the body, when I was going through chemotherapy, I was on a 3-weekly cycle. So I would have a 3-week break between the treatments. And my body would go from feeling like I had the worst flu ever, the worst hangover, and really physically weak for days on end, to the point in a 3-week period where I was fully functioning back as a mum of an 8-year-old boy. And I always used to joke, by the end of the 3 weeks, I had the energy to go to Woolworths, which is our shopping centre, and walk around Woolworths. So in that 3-week period, I went from, I actually wish I was dead right now, through to being able to do so much. So from that toxicity to really being able to do household stuff in a short space of time. So that makes perfect sense. So can you tell us about what life experiences have led you to being in this this almost like way shower kind of role, where you feel like, it seems like you've prepared yourself to be able to help people go through this ascension process, and that is no mean feat. This comes on the back of a great deal of self-work, right? Because our bodies are truly miraculous, yes, but they are also incredibly dense, and they hold on to our past. They hold on and they repress. So we're working against that kind of history. And I know a little bit about your history, and I would be very grateful if you could share with us the experiences that you've had and lead us through into what it's taught you, how you perceive it as playing a role in your life despite the difficulties, and just take us on that journey. And I'll just ask questions every now and again as they come up. But if you could turn your video off now as you share with us, then hopefully the audio be a little bit better. And I'll literally just hand it over to you, my love, to share with us.
Okay. So in early 2000, I embarked on a very deep spiritual training. And through that training that I participated in for about 12 years, it was a deep inner discovery of myself. And through that training and through the work that I did with that training, I had flashbacks and memories of what had happened to me as an infant. Now, these were pre-verbal incidences that continued off and on as I got older, but early child sexual abuse. And I now have some awareness that there was some satanic ritual abuse involved with it. Not from any of my family members, which in and of itself was a blessing. But from a nursemaid that I had. My family was in South America, where these kinds of things often are very prevalent. Okay. This ritualistic kind of behaviors. So I had flashbacks of this awareness. I ended up between the ages of 5 months old until I was 18 months old, having my wrist slit, my throat cut, and pushed downstairs. Now, my mother, based on her upbringing, basically through the law of attraction, was saying I was attracting these things to myself as a 5-month-old to an 18-month-old. Wow. This sets up kind of a self-blame, self-shame. I caused this. I'm the one that created this, these things. Now, I don't hold any animosity to my mother. I have a very good relationship with her. But what these early child sexual abuse incidences cause in a developing individual is it causes a sense of arrested development. We get locked emotionally when there's trauma, no matter what the trauma is. It's our perception of the event. We get locked into a state emotionally at that age. So we may grow up, but we lock into these time frames emotionally, which then gets triggered when there's anything remotely similar to those events. So in my case, it created, first of all, early child sexual abuse, or any sexual abuse, is a traumatic experience from our perception. And we approach life and sexuality through a lens that is extremely distorted. And I had the great blessing of a training, which is the work that I do, which is a mind, body, spirit training, where I was able to, first of all, I did this training with my mother in the room. So I was able to bring out into the open this early child sexual abuse in a space where I was able to visualize walking through the process, talking to these perpetrators, being allowed to have a verbal conversation, because remember I said this was pre-verbal. This was before an infant can't talk. So you work with your client to bring them into a state where they can actually communicate, and you address this person and what they did to you. You clear it out of your physical body, out of your cells, out of your subconscious, and out of your consciousness. Yeah. You purge this out of yourself. And you bring up all the emotions, you scream and yell if that's necessary, you cry, and then you get feedback from them, and you have a conversation, just as we're having a conversation now. It is an unbelievably powerful process. But by being able to do it with my mother through that process, I learned how, and I had known this, but I didn't know what my familial history was, what the epigenetics of child sexual abuse was in my family. Turns out my grandmother had been sexually abused by her grandfather, and my mother was almost raped at 14. So there's an imprinting that happens. Through the science of epigenetics, we take on the emotional energy through our DNA of these events, which predisposes us energetically to be targets. This is the the sins of your father will be perpetrated upon 7 generations, the biblical, I'm not quoting it right, but this is what happened. So there was freedom in being able to share with my mother what had happened and have conversations with her about it and have her say to me, I'm sorry this happened to you. I had no idea. Not only was the work of being able to express it through the exercise, but having the conversation with my mother and having her say that was truly liberating. So these things, what they do is they set up this distortion. And the reason why your work has been so powerful for me is I realized, even though I've done all this work, that I still carry shame. And through your meditations and the work I've been doing with what you've been sharing, is that I'm clearing the shame. What happens is we trigger events in our life will trigger these. So your first period will trigger these memories, whether you're conscious or not. Your first, sexual relationship, your going into menopause. If you haven't addressed these issues, if you haven't brought them to the forefront and cleared them out of your beingness, they will be triggered and they will manifest in disease, emotional instability, depression. A myriad of things will come up because our bodies need to have these released. Yes. So for me, it manifested before I became spiritually aware. I got into relationships because I desperately needed to feel loved because I didn't know what love was. I had a distorted view. To me, it was, I was desperately grasping to feel loved. Yeah. I intellectually knew I was loved, but I didn't feel it. So I got into this domination and control sort of mechanism. I developed very young. I was at 12 years old, I was my full height. I was 34, 20, 34. I had an hourglass figure. I was a 12-year-old. I had no emotional ability to cope with a body that seemed to have weird effects on men and cause them to become stupid. And then I took that as a domination control thing and had no respect for men, really. So we can get these weird, distorted things that happen. It's crazy.
I've heard you speak before about you're married now and in a relationship now. Has that new relationship been a big part of your healing, or had you done most of that before you found him? Because there's one thing, and I remember this well, there's one thing to do our own inner work, but it always felt to me like I have to do all of this for myself before I'm going to be able to turn this out in relationship with another and have an open relationship. Have you found that in relationship you've been able to get that kind of further healing, or has that more often than not come up to show you more stuff that you need to work with?
Well, interestingly enough, I've done all this work through being married. And so my husband and I met, we've been married for 33 years. We met in a self-improvement course. Yeah. And we were each taking a course that was about understanding the opposite sex.
Very good.
And when we started dating, we had a healthy sexual relationship. At least I thought we did. His perception was different, and it confused him because I wanted sex and I didn't understand that he had issues. But as we often do, we delude ourselves in relationship, and I desperately needed to be loved. Yeah. And then I was approaching it the way I thought it was supposed to be approached. Once we got married, I soon discovered that wasn't happening anymore, and I was angry. So after we'd been married about 5 years, and I'd put up with it for that long, I almost left. But by then I had started my spiritual path, and I really felt like I had some sort of a karmic contract here. So what I did is I decided to make the best of it. And I decided that I had to take all my energy and turn it in on my own healing. That this wasn't about him, it was about me and about how I was going to approach my life. Yeah. So I started to do my work, and I'm not going to say that the anger went away right away, because it didn't. I would try to have conversations with him. He would say, "I'm sorry, I'm a bad husband." And all that would do was enrage me even more. But I realized that his problem wasn't about me, because for the first 5 years, I thought something had happened to me, that there was something grossly disgusting about me, and it was my fault. Turns out, as women, we do that a lot. We turn it in on ourselves and think it has everything to do with us. It had nothing to do with me. And when I finally realized that, and I finally turned that over and said, this isn't about me, this is him and his journey, and I decided to just dive into my spiritual journey and my own healing, because I knew that I had issues related to my past, and I wanted to know what they were. Yeah. So by shifting the perspective and realizing I wasn't responsible, that was big, because my pattern is to be responsible for everything. Yeah. Yeah. I let that go. Wow. And I started to discover more and more about myself and my personal psychic gifts and my power and my healing and my ability. When I shifted all of that, I began to heal, and I discovered more, and I grew more, and I started to learn, and I started to want to help other people grow and learn. And out of all of that, I became the person I am today. I wouldn't change 1 second of my life. Everything that has happened to me from the very beginning was what brought me to who I am now. I wouldn't have the intestinal fortitude or the power to be able to do the work that I do, because I not only work with individuals, I do global work. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have the ability to do that and the focus and concentration and intent to do that had I not gone through everything that I went through. It was my training ground to put my own physical drive, because let's face it, your sexual drive is pretty powerful and it can be all consuming. But it's also where our creative power lies. It is if we can focus our sexual drive, our sexual power, our second chakra energy into our purpose in life, and we bring that into full manifestation, we're unstoppable, because that is a force, as you know, that is beyond power. It has a drive and a thrust to it, like none of the other physical chakra powers that we have. It's kind of hard to, but that creative energy moves in and out and through everything that we are and everything that we present in the world. Yeah. And had I had a normal, quote unquote, relationship life, first of all, I wouldn't be where I'm at now, and I wouldn't have the focus that I have now to be able to bring that into the work that I do.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, it gets to that point, doesn't it? And I have a little secret club of breast cancer women in my life, and we all say to each other, it was kind of a gift, wasn't it? Because the way I've made sense of my history is I chose this life. I chose to come into this role. I chose to cop the breast cancer. And it's like we come here in order to learn these lessons, go through these experiences to remember what we are not. And sometimes it's as simple as that. I am not a sexual abuse victim. I was not responsible for what happened to me. For me, I was not that closed down heart. I got breast cancer because I had put up a wall around my heart, and my left breast was right next to my heart was where the cancer came. All of the things that led to me having that experience, it feels like they're points in our timeline where we get to learn that is not what being human is, so that we can come back to remembering who we are. And it seems like a cruel twist of fate that we come here and all this bad shit happens to us, but you can only get to this place of utilizing this energy for good when you have had that disconnection from it. It's like you needed the dark to find the light, right? And this time of living in 2021, the duality of the dark and the light, I don't think it's ever been more palpable than it is right now, Lorraine. So I'm interested to get your perspective on that sort of bigger picture thing as well.
Well, you're absolutely right. We cannot. We to the depths of our despair is to the depths of our joy. We all chose to be here at this really incredibly gift of a time. I work with a lot of people that are, we term the star seeds, people that are having a remembrance that they come from off planet, let's say. Now, I'm of the opinion that the universe is seeded with humanoids, and many of them probably started right here to begin with, but many started on other planets. And I mean, I know that's getting to be even a bigger cosmic idea, but star seeds often find themselves coming into this world, and they come for the purpose of helping this transformation. They are star builders. They are universal builders. Now, we all know on the ascension path, or people that are awakening, that the human mind is the most powerful force in the universe. It is a projector that brings the word. In the beginning there was the word. It brings the word into form and projects it out into a holographic reality, materializing it in form. Yeah. That's what humans do. We come here with our challenging life experiences to feel the full depth, breadth, and width of the human potential, to understand the dark and the light, the good and the bad, and to learn to transcend the labels of that and to recognize it is all energy, and at any moment we can shift it. This is the true gift of humanity and these truths that we are learning. We are transcending all of it. We are letting it all go, because if we don't, we feel pain. If we hang on to what we believe to be true, we are going to be sorely disappointed, because nothing we have known is true. Nothing. We need to surrender our ego mind that is trying desperately to hold on to anything, and we need to just fly. Rise up and fly. Soar beyond it all into the new earth, into what is becoming, because it is so beautiful. You can feel that in your body when you think about it. Where we are going, no disease, no depression, no mental confusion, only love. Pure, unadulterated joy. That is our future. That's where we're going. But if we hadn't had the experiences, we all have a story. Every single one of us, no matter how idyllic our perceived growing up life was, we've all got a perception of it, and from our inner perception, our personal experience from the outside could look really idyllic, but from our perception, it could be a horror show. So it's all perception. Yeah. Everything is perception. And the minute we let go of our ego mind, whose job it is to keep us safe in a 3D reality, it's no longer serving us as we move into this new, albeit very tenuous and challenging time. It is the best of times. We are living in the best of times.
Yeah. Doesn't it feel like
we are able to explore? Exactly. Yeah. We are being birthed.
Yeah.
We are.
That's the discomfort of it, right? The pressure that we're under, the harshness, the chaos and confusion of the times we're in right now are literally that birth canal. And I guess the biggest take home that I have, and I'll get you to share your biggest take home about the importance of doing the inner work, is we can't surrender our ego. We can't surrender to something other than our ingrained beliefs if our body is holding on to all of the stories in the past, because it gets stored in our body. And that's why, for me, the nervous system work and the emotional clearing has to happen. If even the idea of surrendering and letting stuff go will happen, because what we're seeing right now is people holding on to what they think is the truth and the way we do things with such fingernails down the chalkboard, because they are so terrified of this thing that they have come to rely on as being so right, i.e. their beliefs and their way of living, is actually not, as you say, not true, that they are fighting harder. And it's like you've got these people who have been doing the inner work and are so open to acknowledging what's going on in the 3D, and we're still here and we're still living it, but I feel like what I do, Lorraine, is I bring that new energy, that 5D capacity and potential into people's lives by teaching them how to manage their body to get rid of the stuff. So that is what I feel my role is in terms of my work. because our body is our own, like our body is what we've got to ascend with. We can't just ascend in our head. We have a physical body to become that conduit and that vessel. So that's why this inner work is so important. And I used to get really pissed off with the love and light people that would talk about affirmations and mindset and all of this. It is our bodies. You know, what happened to you happened to your body. What happened to me happened to my body. So therefore we must have to use our body to heal and recover from it. So that is my parting comment. And I now hand it over to you. What is your biggest take home about the need to really be doing the kind of stuff you're doing right now in order to really cope and to get through this to the good place?
Well, certainly our bodies are our temples. They are our sacred vessel that we have through this lifetime. And it is the vessel that we are choosing to transcend with. And yes, our cells hold on to memory. This is the epigenetics. This is the DNA. The work that you're doing to help people clear it out of their bodies, the work that I do. 95% of all disease in the body has an emotional foundation. So we need to get to cause. And that's what I do, is I help people get to cause. If we can get to cause, then the cells of our body can finally relax and let go. Yeah. They hold on because they are still being every day bombarded with the frequency of trauma. Yeah. When we can get there, when I'm sure you do a lot of work with the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is important to get us to that point where we can just relax and let go, to let our lungs breathe naturally without the stress hormones purging through our bodies. So it's imperative for us to get to cause, heal at cause. I'm currently working on, I know you're just releasing your course on the body. I'm in the process of working on my course called Heal at Cause, to self-teach people how to do the work themselves, because, you know, it's great that you and I are available, but we can't help everyone. We're only a couple of people, and yes, there are a lot of people doing inner work, but the more people that we can help, the more people that our course can reach, the more people that are healing exponentially, the better the world is. So we need to do the inner work, but we need to recognize that we are in a physical body, and we need to nurture and support and honor and bless and love and take care of this beautiful body that we, you know, they may not be perfect. If we look at them, you know, in a mirror, we may go, oh, I mean, we've all been taught to look at the physical body, you know, if it's not a certain way. When I was growing up, when I was that 12-year-old with that curvy figure, Twiggy was in. Girls that had no hips, no butt, no waist, no boobs were the thing, and I was completely opposite of that. Yeah. I had a Marilyn Monroe, not a Twiggy. And so I learned really young that there was something wrong with how I looked. Now, 20 years earlier, that was the perfect figure. So we have to stop projecting or allowing ourselves to be projected by an external force and look at our bodies as the miraculous, beautiful creations that they are. Every single one of them, no matter how many bumps and lumps you got, you're beautiful. You are beautiful, radiant, loving, kind, joyful, sweet. You are a gift to the world. And it's time for you to shine that out and show everyone, because when you're shining that kind of inner light, there is no one. It's an inside thing projected outward, and you are beautiful.
Yeah.
That's what we all need to remember. We are miracles, and we are in the best of times here at a time that truly we are blessed beyond measure. No matter what the external world is showing you, and yes, it's showing you some really interesting stuff, you need to go within and do the inner work. Because if you do the inner work, what happens on the outside doesn't matter. Your world is not rocked.
Yes.
You have a solid foundation from which to observe the outer world, and you are no longer being manipulated and pushed about by it.
Yeah, yeah. Hallelujah, sister. That is so true. Do you want to just pop your video on to say goodbye? I think the good news that I have for people all the time is that this joyfulness, this playfulness, this real us, it's actually still inside us, right? It's there all along. It is just dormant. It is being repressed and hidden. And the great thing that you and I get to do with people is I feel like we take off the layers of armor and the clods of clay that have stuck in it. And then they find that within the core of them, they're actually really nice fucking human. And that joy that they've been so disconnected from is actually there inside. And like when you get there, and the word that I'm hearing most commonly from my clients at the moment is, I feel such relief in letting that go. And relief is like a stepping stone to joy, I think, because it's like a little taste of how nice you can actually feel when you've just done this tiny little bit of inner work. So it's a privilege to be able to do that for people, isn't it?
It is. And one of the things that I work with clients with, and what I recommend to begin with, is that they just put their feet on the ground and twirl. When I was a little girl, twirling was like a really big thing. I loved twirling. Yeah. And you'll start to giggle and laugh and think you're silly and funny, but the more you do that, the better it is. Yeah. Move your body. Feel the magnificence of it. Just doing that brings in that inner joy, that childlike delight. I had a great teacher in that. My grandmother looked at the world through childlike delight, and I can just remember her being so excited when those silly yellow faces with the smiley face on them came out. Do you remember the smiley face? Just it's all the little icons that we have now that we can use. When those first came out, I remember when those first came out. My grandmother saw those and she was tickled, absolutely delighted by these little smiley faces. And she stuck them all over her house. So if you need to bring childlike joy back, find something that tickles you and do more of it. Yeah. Give yourself permission. Yeah. Stop being that inner critic, that inner overlord. Kick them out and start recognizing that you are the one that's choosing whether you're going to have fun or not. Yeah. And just do it.
True. Yeah, so true. Yeah, it's a bit like my flower bomb, it's like something childlike.
That's right.
Really full of delight. I totally get it on the movement front. I often put on music and just dance, and you can feel yourself like a different person before and after. Such a simple shift of the energy. So yeah. So thank you so much, my love.
Well, and there's
go on.
Just really quickly on that. Yeah. Before we go, there is a really scientific reason why movement is good. Okay. When an animal is being hunted and stalked and chased, it releases cortisol. And when it's done, it's safe, it will stand for 10 to 20 minutes and it will shimmy and shake. That is its body getting cortisol out.
Yeah.
Humans do not do that for themselves. So dancing, movement gets the cortisol out of your body because your mind is telling you you're in danger. It's just a physiological thing that is really good. So, sorry, I know you wanted to end the call, but I just thought I'd stick that in.
It's funny you should say that, because I actually teach muscle tremoring. Like, that's one of the modalities I teach, where I get people to initiate that involuntary tremoring as a tool to discharge the tension. And I've too have watched those videos where a impala is chased by a leopard and it thinks it's dead. So the leopard goes off and leaves the impala, and you'll see the tremoring go on. And it is literally that. It's like discharging the fear and the shock and the trauma of what's happened out of the body the same way it came in, which was contraction. And then you let the body do the opposite and it shakes it out and it's done. You know, it doesn't need counseling for 10 years. It just jumps up and it's off to find its family, you know, and if we could do that too. Imagine what a nicer place this would be. Yeah, beautiful. All right.
Absolutely.
So much.
Absolutely.
I really enjoy talking to you, or whenever we get to do it, but now we get to share it out into the world. So much love to you, and thank you for your openness and your honesty and your inspiration that you're going to provide to people when they listen to this.
Thank you so much. This has been an absolute joy and pleasure, and I look forward to many more conversations.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. All right, everyone. So in the description box below, you will find a link to some material from Lorraine. She's a creatrix like myself and putting stuff out into the world. So have a little read down below and you'll be able to get in contact with her if what she does intrigues you and resonates with you. That's why I love to put these videos out, so we get to know what is out there, and eventually we always find the person that's like, oh, she's talking to me, she knows what's happened to me, and that's part of our healing path. Yeah, so reach out to her, and thank you everyone. I look forward to seeing you again in my next video. Bye for now.